now.
All right, welcome everyone. We're going to give a couple of minutes for everyone to sign in. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. We hope you're doing well, staying safe and sane. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. On behalf of Economic Development Collaborative and the City of Camarillo, we want to welcome you to Phase 2, Safely Reopen Your Business in Camarillo After COVID-19. My name is Juliana Ramirez. I'm President and CEO of JR Bookkeeping in Ventura. I'm also a financial advisor with EDC SBDC. I'm an accounting professional, entrepreneur, 20-year small business bookkeeper, workshop presenter, business advisor, community volunteer, and certified QuickBooks Online Pro advisor. I've trained and helped multiple small businesses, including my own. I take pride in enabling clients to handle as much or as little of their business accounting and bookkeeping as they desire. In 2017, I was featured as Pro Advisor of the Month on Intuit's Firm of the Future website. I want to welcome you again, and I will let Rosandra introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosandra Esquivel, and I am the principal of the HR firm. We are a family-owned and operated company that for the last 10 years has been serving the Ventura County community. One of the things that I'm really excited about is that finally Human Resources is kind of the key holder for a lot of issues, but I'm really glad to be partnering up with JR Bookkeeping as well as you all to ensure that Camarillo opens up safely.
Great. Well, we'll get right into business. As you know, Ventura County is now on a stage 2, and it's actually on expanded version of a stage 2. So I'll let Rosandra go ahead and tell us more about that.
Thanks. One of the things that I want to make sure that you all understand is that even though we are in stage 2, yes, it is expanded stage 2, but I like to kind of think of each stage as having their individual phases within it. So think of this as stage 2.0 and then 2.1. And where we're in right now is that we've gone from nobody being able to be out and about to finally companies and businesses being able to open up a little bit more. And finally, during this last stage, we're able to have dine-in restaurants and in-store shopping and businesses, as long as, of course, you follow certain processes and protocols, and that's all to ensure that COVID-19 is not spread through your working environment. In terms of this, though, I want you to understand that all of the movement, whether it's backwards, forwards, or even sideways within these stages, is all going to be in collaboration with information that we're getting strictly, not only from the CDC, but also the County of Ventura. So in essence, it's a result of all of our behavior, but at the same time, it's going to take all of us to reopen safely a little bit at a time. What we're all looking forward to and absolutely hoping comes, I think, soon, is stage 3, which is where we're going to be going to adapting and reopening such things as movie theaters and possibly having a little bit more personal hospitality services. Naturally, stage 4, which is the last stage that we have, is when the risk has gone so low that we're able to go back to doing things like conventions, sports arenas, concerts, kind of think of it as life as we once knew it before COVID-19. Now, in having said all this, one of the things that I want to make sure that you understand is that the information that we're presenting to you is the information that is up to date as of today. And everything is changing, and it's so fluid that even over the weekend, things can definitely change. Now, in order for you to keep up with all of this information, I would urge you to always check in with VC Reopens so that you're able to get the information as in fact it's being posted. So Juliana, do you want to tell us about this next slide?
Yeah, what do we need to do? For those of you who have already opened, you are familiar with all of these processes already. If you've been open from day one, even if you just made a few adjustments. However, for those of you who are planning to reopen, this is what you need to be aware as far as what you need to do if you are planning to reopen, or if you already open but have not implemented some of these processes. We want to make sure that you are comfortable and you understand what is required here. So we're going to share those steps with you. The first step would be to begin by reviewing the guidance published by the state of California. And you can see the link here on the screen of what those guidelines are. Notice that when you go to that site, you are going to find a guide specific to your industry. So make sure that you are familiar and understand what your industry standards and industry requirements are and that are published there. So the state of California has made it easy for us to be able to really look at that guide and see how it applies to our particular industry. Number two, you'll need to, upon reviewing the guidance, complete a detailed risk assessment of your business in accordance with the state guidelines. And again, we're going to go through that in a minute. You'll also need to complete a written worksite specific COVID-19 prevention plan and post it at your business. Rosandra will tell us more about not just create it or write it, but also how to post it and implement it. Implement the prevention measures identified in your worksite specific prevention plan. Number 5, designate an on-duty employee responsible for monitoring compliance with your plan. Number 6, complete the attestation form by going to bcreopen.com. And number 7, upon completing your attestation, an official from your local jurisdiction may conduct a site visit. These are going to be the requirements here in Ventura County. Now, in addition to that, Rosandra and I have also a few other things that we want to make sure that you also have in place. So we'll go to our next slide.
Well, I'll take over from here if you don't mind, Juliana. This is what you would see if you look at the specific industry risk plans. And what this is saying is that these are questions that the county wants you to look at and have an idea or a plan as to how you would react if you encountered these situations, which is why the worksite plan actually starts out with exactly who you are, your worksite in particular. Now, Juliana did mention that you are going to need to have somebody that is responsible, and that's the person that you're going to put at the very top. I would suggest that if you have more than one person, because one person cannot be on site all the time, that you also put that other person's name. The whole point of this is that these are the individuals which the companies have tasked to ensuring that not only is this plan completed, but also followed. So think of it as you're not just going to be making the plan, but you're going to be implementing it, and you're going to be spot checking it so that you do in fact become compliant through your actions. Now, what are some of the questions? The first one, for example, happens to be, who is the person responsible? So what you're going to find is that you're going to be asked the questions over in different ways. And this is not to trick you. This is not at all meant to trick you, but rather it's meant to ensure that you're very clear as to who is responsible for what. The second column happens to be procedures. So if you know that, for example, you have somebody that is on shift in the morning and then a second person in the afternoon, you're going to say just that in the procedural section. So-and-so is scheduled to be responsible in the morning, and so-and-so is responsible for the afternoon. The frequency, you again put AM, PM, and how often. When it comes to resources, you're going to have various resources. I suggest, as I said before, that you go back and you're always looking at your VC Reopens website, but you also have your CDC website, as well as you have various other industries that are continually sending you information. All of those are considered resources in order for you to, of course, not say that you didn't know that you were responsible or how you're going to implement this particular plan. Now, this is industry specific, but as you can imagine, we don't have every industry under the sun in particular. So you're going to find that there are some industries that are grouped together and others that are not. In certain instances, when the industries are grouped together, you're able to discern that as you're going through the plan itself. So once you have your WORKSITE section, it goes into the employee training, because the county wants to know how you're making your employees aware of this information. And this is very important because, again, your employees should know exactly what it is that you're going to do, everything from how often you're going to be cleaning, what you're using to clean, any protective equipment that is necessary for them to do their job, any measures that have been changed. For example, if you're going to have plexiglass dividers put in between you and the customers, that sort of information should be there as well. One of the major components to this is that you're going to not only think about you, your employees, but then also your clients and your customers. So there is a section that says exactly what you're going to do to protect them. The reason why it's so detailed is because this risk assessment is going to be needed to be posted near the front entrance of your business. Now, this is now the third thing that needs to be posted near the front of your business. You're going to need to have the risk assessment. You're also going to need to have Appendix A, which is a social distancing protocol. Now, a lot of this information is part of your risk assessment, but you still need to have both of these. Now, the difference is with the risk assessment, you post it and you follow it. The Appendix A, or your social distancing protocol, you're not only going to complete it, you're going to post it, but this is also something that you are going to give to all of your employees. This is how you're going to make sure that they know that you are in fact able to keep them safe within what not the requirement of the law, but rather what is the suggestions for you to keep them safe. Once again, you designate the person, you're going to need to make sure that this is always up there. And why am I making such a point of this? Because when the county comes and they send a representative to check if all of these things are there, they're going to look for these two things plus the 1-800 number flyer. And these three things have to be close to the entrance of your place of business. So once you've done this, and again, if you've already done this because you're open or because you're just going to open, the good thing about this is that once this is done, now you're ready. And I really shouldn't say now you're ready. I should say this is something you have to do regardless of whether you are an open business or closed business in Ventura County. They want you to take these measures. But once you have in fact open, you're going to be doing what is called the attestation. Now, when you go to VC Reopens, you're going to find that you are going to be asked to complete this attestation, and it has three parts to it. The first part is where you designate whether or not you've been open before or after the current order took effect. Now, for those of you who had been open before, they're still going to make sure that you need to have those three items. And for those of you who are just opening up now, you should also have those three items, but certainly you're going to need to have a little bit more forward momentum when it comes to how fast you get all of this going. One of the things that I've been continually asked about is, does everybody need to register? And if you're a business in Ventura County, the answer is yes. So regardless if you were open before or you're just now opening, the county would like everybody to go through and have this business attestation. The second page to this attestation, believe it or not, is your business information. Who is the person responsible, again, for making sure that these plans go through, the address, the phone number, how are they going to communicate with you? And then the third page of this happens to be the attestation itself, where you attest or affirm that you have taken certain measures to ensure the safety of not only your customers, but also your employees. And all of that you do sign off on. Once you sign off and you send it out to the county, generally speaking, you can have a representative visit your site anywhere between 5 to 10 days. The question has been, do they call you ahead of time? And no, they don't call you. In instances, they may call you because you're a mobile business. And if you're a mobile business such as like construction, they may not want to go out to your construction site, so they will call and make an appointment. Now, in office settings like myself and other people, they're going to show up and they're going to walk through the whole process. What they want to see more than anything is that you have a protocol, that you have a process for ensuring that the people that are at your place of business have not been exposed to COVID-19, and also you've reduced the potential of them being exposed to anybody new. So again, this attestation is super important. Now, I'm sure Juliana is going to share with you the second reason why it is so important.
Yes, and I will have a little bit more information towards the end, but one of the reasons that you're going to want to do this is because, as you know, the county has come out with a program, a 20 million program to help small businesses through this pandemic, or through the difficulties of facing this pandemic. And in order to do that, one of the requirements for you to qualify for that program is going to be that you are registered with the county. So that is certainly a reason why you want to make sure, especially if you're going to be seeking that assistance, that you complete this attestation.
Now, remember that we did say that there had been some companies that were open before and some that are just opening up now. Now, as of April 1st of 2020, as you know, the CARES Act went through. And so what the next slide shows you is the poster that needs to be put in addition to your normal employment law posters. And what this is that it gives your employees the information about what is going to happen should they be exposed to COVID, in case they do come down with the symptoms, or if they have in fact been infected with the virus, what exactly is that you as an employer have to follow under these new guidelines. So this is a poster that if you don't have it up next to your normal employment posters, please make sure that you do have this. And as you could see, this is in English, but it is also available in Spanish.
Right.
Now, this happens to be my favorite part because I get to tell the story. When the person came to visit my office, I would not allow them to come in unless they completed one of these questionnaires. And the reason for doing this is because I wanted them to self-disclose whether or not they have been around people that could potentially have exposed them to COVID-19. And as you could see, some of the questions are very, very basic. Have you returned from other countries? Have you had close contact with anyone within 14 days? Basically, have you experienced any of the cold or flu-like symptoms within the next 14 days, or whether the last 14 days, excuse me. So again, this is for self-disclosure. This means that nobody, we've taken the protocol in my office that nobody walks through the door unless they have completed this questionnaire, and that's both client, visitor, and employees. And also, we're going to keep this so that we're going to then have a 30-day term. Basically, anybody within 30 days, we can go back and say if these persons self-disclosed X, Y, and Z. In addition to this, I also said, even after you complete this, I'm going to ask that you hand sanitize and please don't touch my doorknobs. And I basically put the person through the whole system. I'm kind of happy to say that the whole thing took less than 10 minutes because I had everything in its place. So they took the picture of my Appendix A, my risk assessment, my poster. I also made sure that they understood that even after they had this questionnaire, we have also adopted a policy where everybody has to wear face masks. So again, I made sure that all of that was very clear and upfront. 10 minutes, she said, thank you very much, please close your door. Because guess what? My doors were locked, which means that that's how I control who goes in and out of my office. That's how I control whether or not somebody has in fact self-disclosed, and that's how I control, obviously, how I expose, if I expose, my office to anything that would be considered outside forces. Now, again, washing of the hands, I've seen various people say, well, if I wash my hands, why do I have to sanitize? And what about gloves? What about this? Now, again, I'm not a medical professional. However, if you read through the CDC websites, they will tell you that hand sanitizing is good, hand washing is great. You do have to wash your hands for 30 seconds minimum underwater, obviously, with soap, not just kind of do the sprinkle and then kind of go. But in addition to that is that if you're going to be wearing gloves and putting hand sanitizers and whatnot on top of that, it often will eat at the gloves. And so you're actually exposing yourself a little bit more. So when that happens, and if you're going to be using gloves, the recommendation is that you only use gloves for 2 hours at a time and that you are changing them. But your hand washing, you can wash them as often and obviously as much as possible. Again, all of this is awesome, but I have to tell you the best thing that you could possibly do is to encourage your employees to stay home if they're sick, which is why you want to make sure that if everybody knows that they have to clear your questionnaire every day, give them one of the questionnaires to take home so that at home, they know if I'm running a fever of 100.3, it's not a good idea for me to come in. If I've been coughing or if I have flu-like symptoms for the last 48 hours, it's not a good idea for me to come in. Now, again, these are all things that we could do because the worst thing that can happen is that we're exposing each other needlessly, and that's really what we want to avoid. Now, I've often been asked, what about sick time? I want to take the opportunity to remind all of you that we already have paid sick time through the state of California. So if your employees have not used that, that is a prime example as to when it would be appropriate for them to stay home and use their sick time. If they've already gone through it, then I would suggest that, again, you go back to that CARES poster and you follow the instructions through there so that you're able to know how exactly you're able to classify them and what benefits they have, if any. So, I mean, it sounds like it's a lot and it sounds like it's very detailed, and it is. It's detailed, but it's not a lot for us to do. What I want to make sure that we all understand is that in essence, what we're trying to ensure is that we take the measures that are necessary so that we do not add to the possibility of clients or our patients or our customers or our employees from being exposed to the COVID-19. So that in itself is in a nutshell how we're going to reopen safely. Now, what you see here, Juliana, can you tell us what this is?
Yeah, this is the 800 hotline number. This is the required poster that will let anybody walking into your building that you've completed the attestation. And this is what the officials are going to want to see posted as they come and visit your business once you've registered. So I went ahead and went to the site, which is not that difficult. Again, everything that we covered in this presentation, it's right from this website. All the steps that we covered, it obviously on here does not necessarily mention the Appendix A, or it doesn't mention the employee rights flyer. However, this is why we're holding this webinar, so that you can understand that in addition to those, to these requirements by the county, there are those recommendations that we have for you. And again, that flyer, you can find it on step 8, by just clicking on it and printing a copy and posting it at your place of business.
Right, and I have had the question, why is it only in Spanish and English? And that's because that's the only ones that the county has put out right now. I would, again, just make sure that you post this, and I would say if you need another language, you can certainly translate it, but don't make that your official poster. These are still the official posters that need to go up. If the information, or rather the intention, is to have the information be shared as much as possible, I am completely all for sharing it in the language that is best suited for the individuals. But don't forget that we still need to have these particular postings up.
Right. And now this is the time for questions.
This is my favorite time.
It's my favorite time too. How do offices that have no customers or visitors differ in terms of requirements?
So this question has come up especially more and more because are we trying to safeguard the people that come into the office, or are we trying to safeguard the people that are already in the office? And I have to say that there are currently no different requirements for whether or not you have people coming in and out of your office. If you have more than one person, meaning if you have an employee or even an intern or somebody that you share offices with, then the entire office needs to follow these protocols. If you're alone in your office, it's completely different because you obviously don't have that traffic going in and out of your office, plus you don't have somebody working there. But as of right now, the only thing that we have is that we need to follow this. The only differential is if you're a home-based business, but outside of that, it doesn't say whether your office has traffic or not. So I would need to have a little bit more information about that particular question before I can answer it further.
Great. And what about a virtual office? Do we need to save these posters in our shared drive just like we do with all the other employment posters?
Awesome question. Yes, ma'am. And as a matter of fact, if you share an office, let's just say like a virtual office, or you share space somewhere else, I'm going to give you the example of, we all know that there's office space that you could rent by the hour or by the day or what have you. That particular office is responsible for registering the office itself. And then each individual business that uses offices within that office would also need to register.
So here's a question for me. I'm in that situation. We have one office in a larger office with, I think, 4 other businesses. Now, my business is virtual. We are not entering the office. We're not doing anything. Does my company still need to register that we're reopening?
Well, do you have a physical address? Meaning at any one time, even though you create most of your work off-site, there is an opportunity for somebody to work on-site. You may not be doing that now, but at one point or another, you were working at least one day or one day a week, one day a month, however the time may be in that office space, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have a physical office.
So then because there is the opportunity for multiple people to gather at that one office, even if it's just one day or what have you, you would still need to ensure that you take all of these precautions, because you want to make sure that if at any time anybody walks in through there, they know exactly what steps to take in order to be protected.
Guess I know what I'm doing today.
One more thing to ask to add to your tasks.
I know. I'm a corporation, but I'm the only employee. Do I still need the employee rights poster?
Awesome questions. You're a corporation and you're an employee and you're the only one. I would say that based on just sheer definition, yes, you would, because you're an employee of the corporation. Although I understand the dynamics, you're the only one, and certainly you know what your rights are, or hopefully you're not going to do something adversely negative towards the company. But again, by definition, I would just put it up.
Great. Expanding on that, what about sole proprietor? She's a dog trainer with no employees and they work outdoor distancing. So do they still need to do all this stuff?
Oh, you guys are in tip-top shape today. I love these questions. For somebody that basically you work off-site, that person may fall under the home-based businesses, which have different, at this point, they're not required to register.
Great. Let's see, Mike, we already did that one. Here, I'm a home-based music teacher, currently online, but want to resume in person. How much of this applies? So where do we find those home-based business regulations?
That's in the actual order. In the order that came out, I believe a week ago, it specifically says home-based businesses, and then it goes through businesses that are opening. When all else fails, please remember that everything is being put through those orders. VC emergency, that's where you can find the information. And obviously there's also some overlapping information under VC reopens.
Great. And someone asked, how do we find Appendix A? Is that on VC Reopens?
It is. It's also on VC emergency. It's at the very bottom.
Let's see, I'm gonna see if I can.
Yeah, I'm looking for it. But yeah, Juliana, if you find it, if you could.
Yes, it's at the very bottom. They change this on me all the time.
To be honest, if you just Google
Yeah.
Appendix A, you will find it. Yep.
There it is, Appendix A, Ventura County.
Cool.
Appendix A.
So we'll put that in the chat.
Yes.
A link to it in the chat.
I also wanted to mention that as far as, you know, the different guidelines, when you go from BC Reopens into that roadmap, that is, it takes you to those industry guides that we're talking about. So when you go by reviewing that guidance, you will go there, and here where you click on find the industry guidance, this is where you will find where you fall under, you know, where your business falls under. And then depending on what type of business you are, you will click on it and you'll have a link to those, to that guide.
Great. Follow up to that, is there a consultant service for industry specific questions with the county?
I don't understand the question.
So are there any consultants who can help, you know, let's say I'm a retail business. Are there consultants who can help specifically retail or manufacturing to navigate how to reopen?
I would say, I don't know, and I don't think so, or I don't know. That's actually the right answer. However, what I would say is if you contact that hotline and ask them that question.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So I'll put a link to the Economic Development Collaborative hotline, and I would give them a call and ask that question.
That, but also I will also through the county, you know, if there's a particular issues or concerns, like if your concern is, you know, I'm a business, I'm following everything that I think I can, however, I still have questions on A, B, and C. How do I go about this? I would say the county will be the best to contact regarding specifics to your business or situation.
Great. Through the Ventura County website, do we still need to download and send these things email or by regular mail? Mike, I'm assuming you're asking about the posters, if you need to maybe mail those to your employees.
I would email them to your employees, but I think one of the things that I'm really glad that question came up is because much of what I've told you, you don't mail anything, you keep it at your workplace. That's why I said make sure that these items are close to the front of your business or the front door of your business, because the county, the only thing they want is the attestation, and they're going to go off of that and then make sure that you actually have and do the things that you've attested to. So don't send anything to the county, just make sure that you have everything ready by your front door to do it. Now, if you're like in Emily's case, that you have multiple employees that are off-site, like anything else, you should send it to them to make them aware and keep it in a folder virtually.
Great. Any specific recommendations? This person has a dog training studio for group classes indoors or outdoors, and part-time with clients and also home-based. So any other specific things for that kind of situation?
Oh, wow. Well, anytime that you're interacting with people, you are going to need to follow these guidelines. Anytime, and let me just explain it this way. I have clients who go to people's homes for services, for whatever that service may be. When they're confirming the appointment, they go through the checklist with everyone that's going to be present when the employees are there. And then they know what their employees are exposed to. So that's one thing that you could do to safeguard your employees who are going offsite and into people's homes or other businesses. When you are interacting again with anybody, there's always the potential for exposure. So I don't want to tell you you have to do these things. I just think that you would want to do these things to safeguard both your clients and your employees while they're conducting business for you.
Great. So follow up from Mike, and I think instead of the posters, what he's asking about is the attestation. And so is it true that the different, the attestations for different industries are on VC Reopens? And so yes. Are those something you can fill out online? Do you need to print it out and fill it out by hand?
Well, what we find is that what is on the VC Reopens is a PDF. So that means that you're going to be able to either fill it out by hand. I know that there have been certain instances where the PDF has been converted into an Excel spreadsheet and you can then type it in. That is also acceptable. The key is that we need to make sure that you have the correct one because, for example, you can't fill out the retail one and hope that it's going to encompass everything. When you're not in retail, it's not. If you're in office, it's totally different. And the reason I say this is because the length of this is also different depending on the industry. So the dine-in, for example, is a 10-page risk assessment, whereas the office one is a 4-page assessment. So again, depending on the risk factor, that's the length of it. So don't assume that only one is going to be encompassing for a lot of industries. That's also why it's so important for you to get the right one. And when you go onto this particular site and you're asked what's your industry, they give it to you actually. If you say you're in an office or dine-in or construction, they will give you the risk assessment that they want you to fill out. So if in this case she went to administrative support, at the very bottom, it tells you which risk assessment you should fill out. So they're taking out the guesswork from all of this.
Yeah, so I don't know what type of business he has, but depending on that business, like we said, if you once you select like your business, look how extensive this is. So like for instance, restaurants, when you click on that, it'll give you everything. Notice how that was a bit different. Like Rosandra mentioned, some industries are going to be less. And then there's the guidance for the dining restaurants or the checklist for dining restaurants and so on, or just the guidance for takeout and delivery restaurants. So that is certainly where you are going to find the specifics of your business or for your business.
Great. It sounds like somewhere in the forms there's the term limited services on VC Reopen, but there's not a definition. So what the heck is that?
Oh, I love it. So I actually know what's in limited services. You have landscaping. You also, I believe, have window, mobile groomers. There's a variety of people that industries that are in there. And you go through the specifics. And then at the end, it has additional questions specifically for those industries.
Great. So
I'm just walking you how easy it is to like here, limited services, and you'll be able to see guidance for limited services and what it is. It tells you here, the faith-based counseling can reopen within the following parameters, like counseling and
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this person is our friend who has a dog training studio. So where do you think that fits?
Limited services is most likely.
Okay, looks like you're in luck.
Yeah, and I know the concerns that everyone is going through. I have to be totally honest. I know it seems overwhelming and a lot to do, but just bear in mind that if you take it apart step by step, it really does walk you through the whole thing. I've had questions asked, like, for example, if I'm only dealing with like 4 of these people or 2 people at a time, do I really need to go through all this? And the answer is yes, you do. Anytime there's any interaction, absolutely.
Great. What about bowling pro shop in a bowling alley? Where does that fit?
Keep in mind,
Probably,
oh, sorry, go
oh no,
ahead.
go ahead. I want you to go.
I said, keep in mind that if your business is still not within the stage, then probably the guidance is not out there. And this is why you're probably having a hard time finding it. So
Exactly.
keep in mind, if you are not there yet, there's no guidance there yet.
Exactly.
Maybe because
Which is why it's so
Yeah.
important for people to really also keep an eye out for those orders, because those orders are the ones that are going to say, okay, now this industry is able to move forward. Or it's going to halt it and say, okay, we're going to hold off for a little bit, and we're going to now reassess when they're going to open. I have to be honest, when this whole thing went through, there were only 2 things up here. It was manufacturing and retail, nothing else. So at one point, those were the only choices. Now, for me, it's awesome to see how many people are able to open, because look at how expansive the list is.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that. I am a small dance studio with max of 6 students at a time. Do I need to get a permit or restructure my studio before reopening? And how and when can I reopen?
Wow. So small studio with 6 kids. I don't know what permit they're saying, but in essence,
Probably
if
the attestation.
the attestation, then yes, absolutely. A lot of things that they would need to look at is also, how do you keep those kids safe? It's not just the employees, but also the kids. In like day camps, for example, have to go through this as well. And what this means is, do you group the same 6 people all the time? So they have one class that only those 6 people and they have to stick together. How do you make sure that the parents know what you're doing? Yeah, it's a little bit more than just what we've suggested. Again, it's all about interaction. It's about how do we keep people safe, and including some of the little people who may not understand exactly what it means to having to wash their hands or not kiss or not hug and not be kids. I mean, we're in a world where it's going to be a little bit challenging, but not impossible for us to have things like that happen. So just keep that in mind.
Great. And so I saw one of the sections was like fitness facilities or something. So
Mhm.
so check that out, because maybe you're in there, but I don't know. So start with VC reopens.
Yeah.
I am a psychologist who has been coming to the office, but doing telehealth at the moment. I'm not sure at what point I want patients back in the office. How far in advance of having patients back should I have all these steps done?
Great question. The reason why it's a great question is because it's going to be completely up to that person. If they're able to keep teleconferencing and meeting the needs of their patients, that's awesome. Right now, there is not a forced open. And by that, I mean, it's not as if the county is saying, now that you can open, you have to open. They're still allowing businesses such as that to determine when it's safe. So when the determination has been done for that particular business, is not the time to start, but rather I would start now so that they could see how far into the progress they've gotten, because you never know if one of their patients is going to be technology
impaired.
impaired. Yeah. Impaired. And so you just never know. And so again, don't wait till you think you have to open. Start thinking of it now and understand that you're not being forced to open. You're just being given the opportunity to open if you feel that you could meet the safety requirements that are set forth.
Well, and I recommend too, I bet that there is a lot of pressure to be, on the front end of opening, because what if you don't open and your customers go somewhere else?
Absolutely.
My recommendation is communicate that early and often. And we've seen some great examples of that in restaurants,
Yes.
where
Yes.
they our friends at Slate Bistro did this exactly in Camarillo, where they said, yes, we know we can open, and we don't believe that we can do that safely yet. And so we're going to take another week or whatever it took, and these are the things we're doing to make sure you're safe. And
Right.
so I think you could actually earn increased customer
Sure.
respect and loyalty. And so don't feel any pressure to be the first to open up, because it really is a personal decision.
Absolutely.
I also would like to add, excuse me, that as you are implementing this in your business and learning what are the type of protocols that you are implementing in your business would also help to understand what to look for in those other businesses that you may probably be visiting that are maybe not following. Not that they're not following because they don't want to listen or they don't comply, but maybe they don't understand. And this is where we come as a community effort of making sure everybody's safe. So I would say that as you are learning about the different protocols that are happening or that are required for each business, and if you visit a business that doesn't, is not following that protocol, that you're able to, to help them in that way.
Right.
Yeah. Follow up about psychology practices. Are they allowed to open under extended stage 2 for limited services, or do they need to wait for stage 3?
I'd have to look at specifically what the order says. I don't know that information off the top of my head, and I don't want to give misinformation. So I'd have to look that up.
Great. Okay. Some of the sample answers on the risk assessment include requiring employees to take quizzes. Do we need to require employees, sorry, I lost my place. Do we need to require that, or do we have some latitude to merely require them to sign an attestation saying they've read and learned the necessary materials on social distancing?
So I want to welcome you all into my world. And my world is generally that of, we need to document that people know what is expected, as well as to what it is that we as employers are going to do for them. So what I'm going to say is that for the safety of everyone, so that somebody doesn't claim that they blindly signed something without reading it or understanding it in the future, I would suggest that you have a training, you make them understand, or I should say you encourage them to understand the reasons why you're taking these steps, and let them know that really it's for the safety of themselves as well as their customers or anybody that they interact with, that you really want them to take this very seriously. And I say this because I know, we all know, that there are in fact people that are not necessarily happy to have to comply with a lot of these things. And it's not about opinions, and it's not about really what needs to be done or what have you. It's the fact that if we all want to be in business and we all want to be open, these are the things that we need to do. We just need to do them consistently, and we just need to ensure that the employees understand we're not doing anything to them, we're doing this for them. Big deal.
I want to share in our situation, we originally started with that questionnaire once a week, and our HR consultant reminded us that we needed to have that more consistent, and so we moved that to a daily. So it has become a daily task at our office to have our employees complete that questionnaire, attesting that they have been not being exposed, and that that they have no symptoms and things like that. So what we said is, you have a couple of minutes before you once you've started your shift, you have a couple of minutes to complete that questionnaire, and then just make it a daily task. So we just made that a part of their daily routines, and it's been happening very successfully. They understand that this is for their safety and this is for them more than for us.
Well, and it feels like an extra administrative burden. And also, we already have those in our life, right? You have to make the time to fill out a timesheet. No one likes it, right? But
everyone loves to get paid.
Exactly. So just think of this, it's just another thing that you have to do to run your business.
Yes.
Can you go through each of the things that people need to do to reopen? Because there are lots of different, the attestation and the signs and the training. So can you give me, I'll put you on the spot, can you give me step 1 through 400 and what each action is with the tool?
Lucky for you, I am quick on my feet.
Yep.
One of the things that we're going to do is we're just going to talk about those 3 documents. The first one you need to have is the risk assessment, the right risk assessment for you. You're then going to also have the Appendix A, which is your social distance policy, and make sure you distribute this to your employees. You're then going to put your posters up, which is this one, the employee rights one, as well as the 800 number. And the 4th step is you're going to fill out the attestation and wait for the person to come to visit you. The last step is implement your questionnaire. And that's, again, 4 steps, plain and simple, or as simple as I can make it.
Good, good, good. Thank you very much. Some of these simple, oh, whoops, we already answered that one. I have an office with employees that conduct administrative duties. However, our company provides in-home services to children with disabilities. How should we approach going into someone's home to provide these services? Since these are remote, do we need to take anything such as questionnaires or posters with us?
Well, since they are remote, when you are confirming if you are confirming those appointments, it would be a great opportunity for you to fill out that questionnaire for anybody that's going to be on site. Obviously, it's not just the child that they're going to go see, but anybody else in the area that the employee is going to see. The way that I would explain it is that you want to ensure that you are not exposing your clients, or in this case, your patients, needlessly. So we're going to go through this questionnaire, which all of my employees are doing on a daily basis. And you present it as you are doing it for their benefit just as much as your benefit. I wouldn't say take posters around with you, but I have had clients that give like name badges, for example, that say, I know we normally hug, but please refrain from that. Or sometimes it's like, I wish I can hug you, but I can't do that. And that's because kids don't understand why it is that they can't normally do the things that they wouldn't even think twice about. Sometimes it's in the face masks. I've been told kids don't really like the face mask because they seem a little intimidating. It's a matter of explaining, yes, we are going to use face masks, and it's because of this. It's about education in a lot of ways, and it's about taking a lot of burden off of the assumption that people know that this is what you have to do, and just explaining to them. And really what you're going to find is that you explain it once or twice, and then at that time, it becomes an expectation that they're going to follow that new protocol if they're going to be continuing on with the service. In-home healthcare is a hard one. It's a hard one as it is. And when you go in and do anything, whether it's education, therapy, or just healthcare in itself, you have a job to do. And that hasn't really changed. What's changed is how you're interacting with people. And again, it's just a matter of educating and telling them these are new protocols that we set forth.
Great. Does the walkthrough have to happen before you allow customers in?
Wow, well, this is an awesome question, because no, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, I can tell you that people rushed to do the attestation that very first day that we were required to. And we had somebody literally overnight come in and say, hey, let's go through it. That's when we didn't have over 6,000 registrants. No, you don't have to wait, but just remember that when they come in, they are going to go through this whole step. And if there's anybody like patients or clients or customers there, it's a nice thing for them to say, yes, I was put through all that and I feel great. And it's a way for them to understand that you're just not doing this to get through the county requirement, but you're doing this as a new set protocol for everybody's safety.
Great. So you have to you have to go through all those steps that you went through, and then you can reopen. And then at some point after that, you will get a visit from someone from the county.
Yeah, right now it's anywhere between 10 to 15 days after you register. Like I said, at the beginning it was within 24 hours, then that slowly started to grow, and now we're at 15 days or so.
Great. All right, that is all of our questions for now. So everyone, if you have more questions, pop them in the Q&A.
That's right. While we do that, I did want to talk about the Business Assistance Grant Program. As you know, the Ventura County Rapid Response COVID-19 Business Assistance Grant Program will provide vital grant funding to local businesses and nonprofit organizations developed by the County of Ventura in consultation with Economic Development Collaborative, Women's Economic Ventures, and the Ventura County Community Foundation. The main features of this program include grants of $5,000 awarded to small businesses and nonprofit organizations located in Ventura County to alleviate impacts from COVID-19 for allowed uses such as payroll support, rent and lease payments, costs for personal protective equipment, purchases related to the operation of their businesses, any extraordinary business expenses for adhering to compliance protocols for reopening. So, such as cleaning services, signage, customer interference capabilities, additional security, etc. Applications will be available from June 24th to July 8th. You can sign up for updates on the VC Reopens website to be notified when the application website is open. The funding will be awarded in 2 phases. For the first phase, business assistance grants will be 5,000 awards to 1,000 recipients and will be available to those small businesses and nonprofit organizations that meet the following criteria: individually eligible small businesses and eligible nonprofits, collectively eligible small businesses and nonprofits. So the first requirement is that the business or nonprofit organization maintains a business license in Ventura County, that the business or nonprofit organization was in business on or before March 17th. Number 3, in 2019, the business or nonprofit organization had total annual gross revenue between $25,000 and $2 million. Number 4, the business or nonprofit has registered with VC Reopens if eligible. And number 5, the nonprofit organization is exempt from tax under Internal Revenue Code, Section 501c3 for an IRS determination letter. So again, remember, this is why it's going to be so important. If you are an eligible business and are going to be seeking this grant assistance, make sure that you are following all these steps and that you qualify for this grant. I also want to invite you to our EDC weekly webinars that we have every week, obviously. We have one that is a financial webinar called Changes, Updates, and Best Practices for Managing Federal Funding. This is designed for those businesses that have already applied for government assistance, either PPP, EIDL, or anything else local. They can join us to make sure that they are tracking everything correctly, as well as they are going to be ready for forgiveness, particularly those that had PPP. We also have a beginner's guide to building your business through Instagram. This is another free webinar to discuss the ABCs of setting up an Instagram account, creating a social media content calendar, and producing content that sells. That is also on Wednesday, the 24th at 12:30. All of these webinars are being recorded and posted after the fact. So check edcollaborative.com to register and also to check a recording of these webinars.
Great. I heard a rumor that if you received PPP or EIDL, you could not also apply for the county grant. Do you have any intel on that?
That is possible. I don't have the definite yes or the definite no, but that is possible. These grants are going to be designed mainly for those businesses that were not able to seek funding otherwise.
Great. And
to obtain funding otherwise.
And just a reminder plug that the PPP application PPP program ends at the end of the month. So apply, apply, apply.
Yes.
And EIDL has reopened. So again, apply, apply, apply. Those resources are here to help you maintain your business.
And if you want the latest on the changes of those, of the provisions on the PPP, that is usually what we cover on Wednesday. So we will be having that information available for you on Wednesday. So if you have any other questions or need additional assistance, do not hesitate to call for no-cost consulting to our hotline, and also visit edcollaborative.com. And once again, I want to thank you on behalf of the city of Camarillo and ED Collaborative.
We have one more question if you have time.
Mm-hmm.
So what if a county rep comes during a patient appointment and you're the only one in the office? Do you have to stop your session to meet with them?
If you are the only one in the office and you have a patient there, I would suggest that you lock the door so that people don't go in and out without your knowledge. What will happen then is they will let you know that they will come back. But certainly the way that you're going to ensure that you don't have that, I guess the interruption is to lock your door. They will come back, don't worry.
I will also suggest that you have a sign that says currently with a client, or currently with, you know, I would post that as you are closing that door. Make sure that you let them know, you know, currently with on a session or something like that. So you,
right,
your county official doesn't think that you're just ignoring.
You're not evading them. You're just
evading
attending to someone.
You are with a client. So that's what I would suggest. And maybe, you know, say I'll be back in 15, 20, or I'll be available in 30 minutes or something like that. So
exactly,
to help them understand that.
Great. All right. Those are all of our questions.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for joining us today. We hope that you found this information helpful. And again, do not hesitate to contact us if you need any additional help.